Hello citizens, these are the games I played in March.
Come on, Zoe! Jump!
I watched the trailer of Split Fiction back in the Game Awards, I think, and I didn't think much of it. Perhaps because it's exclusively a co-op game, my mind kind of filtered it out. But then when pretty much every gaming channel and social media accounts that I follow were gushing about it, I thought, okay, maybe there is something to it. So I asked my brother to play the game with me, and am I so glad that I did. At the risk of sounding hyperbolic, I'd say playing Split Fiction together with my brother was a joyful, emotional, at times almost spiritual experience for me. The daunting amount of creativity the game puts on display made me and my brother shout out loud how brilliant the game is at regular intervals during our playthrough. I absolutely loved how the game consistently introduces variety and keeps surprising you. While playing the game, it felt like the devs have seemingly poured out every good idea they've ever had in their lives in this one game, and the genuine care and passion in every aspect of its design could be felt every moment. At least 10 times in the game, I say to my brother, if the game ends now, I'd be fully satisfied by the amount of creativity they have shown thus far, and the price of the game would be absolutely justified. But the game kept going and kept introducing more and more cool things in front of us. Other games have enamored me with their story, their philosophical depth, mechanics, or even just visually. But the way this game gave me the absolute pure joy of just playing a video game, I can't recall what was the last game that took me through a similar pure enjoyment. Yes, the fact that it is a co-op game which allowed me to communicate live with another human being sitting right beside me definitely helped. It brought back fond memories of my childhood back in the late 90s and early 2000s when my brother and I would play games like Metal Slug, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, King of Fighters, Streets of Rage, and so on. The mere fact that this game allowed me to re-experience part of my childhood like that already makes me feel a deep sense of gratitude towards the makers of the game. I'm not going to talk about the mechanics or the story of the game or how the game works, etc. It's a new game and the internet is full of discussions about those aspects of it. What I would say is that whatever kind of gamer you are, whatever types of games you generally prefer, these things are irrelevant when it comes to Split Fiction. Grab a friend or a sibling or a partner or a parent or whoever and just play this game. I 100% guarantee it will be a thoroughly entertaining, enjoyable, moving experience for you.
Uh-oh. Shouldn't have had those leftovers.
I got offered a copy of Please Leave Me Alone, I Need to Poop by its developer. The name of the game intrigued me, so I decided to check it out. It's a very short game about an office worker who needs to poop, but his boss, colleagues, and random other people or events try to prevent him from getting in the toilet and do his business. Just like While Waiting, a game that came out this February which I reviewed, this is also a collection of minigames. Every time you start the game, your boss calls to discuss some new project, which you can listen to at the expense of losing your grip on the impending poop, or you can pretend to have discussed it with your boss already and just hang up the phone to embark on your journey towards the toilet. On your way, you are presented with a few minigames, upon completing which you finally succeed to have that sweet relief.
Merciful Jesus! Thank you for blessing this sinner's asshole! Oh,
After that, you get to do a presentation on the idea that your boss had called earlier to share with you, and depending on how much you had listened to him at the beginning of the game, you can choose dialogue options to try and present the idea with any degree of cohesion. Based on how much sense you make during this presentation, you are graded, and if your accuracy is 50% or higher, you complete the game. From both mechanically and visually, the game tries to remind you of old Flash games. But unfortunately, due to a mishmash of too many art styles that just don't blend with each other, the game visually looks extremely amateurish, but not in any good way that would appeal to your nostalgia, but more in an ugly and off-putting way. Also, the audio balance is just a train wreck. I mean, I have played my share of solo developed games with basically zero budget, but even in those games, audio balance was rarely, if ever, this bad. I think it should have been a free game, as it looks, sounds and plays like a game that you would make while learning a game engine, which by rule of thumb, you just never publish. But it costs like $2 or something, and honestly, I can't recommend anyone to pay actual money to play this.
Pure shit!
Since I'm kind of a big fan of WWE games, certainly way more than the actual shows, every year I make sure to play the yearly WWE 2K game the moment it arrives. This year was no different, and after playing this year's WWE 2K25, I thought it was pretty much what I expected. The gameplay remains largely the same as last year, which was similar to the year before, and so on. It's not a complaint, as I think the current control scheme is probably the best one ever, especially for how it makes it easy to perform certain moves kind of intuitively. The showcase mode is back with some minor improvements to its decade-old formula, focusing on the Bloodline dynasty this time, which unlocks superstars from bygone eras, most of whom I personally didn't care much about unlocking. I made a whole video detailing my gripes with the showcase mode in general and how little things contribute to the mode being an absolute slog. Link should be on the screen and in description, do check it out. Unfortunately, the only game mode I care about, the GM mode, hasn't seen any improvement worth mentioning, but rather went backwards and became a bit worse than last year's version, with stuff like every PLE becoming a mixed PLE where superstars from competing brands are put in a match with no build-up or anything, superstars getting injured too frequently and for ridiculously long periods, intergender matches not being available in the GM mode, although it was one of the more highlighted features of this year's game, and so on. Overall, WWE 2K25 failed to impress me in any way, and it just remains another yearly iteration of the game with barely anything new to offer.
It is pathetic!
I wouldn't normally consider including demos in these monthly videos, but I was given access to an exclusive demo of Palace of a Thousand Curses by the developers. And since this exclusivity made me feel special, I thought I'll make an exception. Palace of a Thousand Curses is a 2D Metroidvania that is clearly very inspired by Prince of Persia. Not necessarily the Lost Crown, but more by the Sands of Time. It's got the same water drinking, spike traps, rope hanging, wall-to-wall, secret areas containing health upgrades, and undead-ish enemies. The demo begins in Granada, Spain in the year 1608, where you play a beggar named Rodrigo Al-Ahzab. You just saw a rich man leaving his house in a hurry forgetting to shut the door. So you decide to enter the house in hope of getting rich, I guess. But you encounter a magical book and end up somehow transported inside the world of the book and start playing as a sword-wielding hero. You can hold the block button for long and short times to block and exhaust enemy attacks, then attack in different ways to build a sort of style point that enables you to unleash a more powerful attack. It's a bit like Sekiro, but of course kind of clunky. While the game's super early status makes me hesitate to say anything definitively, but I must say I thought the combat, though very simple, is kind of fun, and I do see some potential in this combat system provided they develop it further. It's a super early demo, that's why the developers warned me that it's supposed to be pretty buggy, but I didn't really encounter any. I didn't like the choice of art style though. The color combination and the general look of the gameplay part was downright ugly and off-putting for me. And I think the art style also hinders general readability of the levels. But I liked the level design, especially being a super short demo. It was able to show off a good amount of variety and features that intrigued me to play the full version. If you like what you see here, maybe wishlist the game, I don't know.
Filthy vermin!